Hey everybody, welcome back to the Zen Perry Project. Today we have Ed from Teen Mortgage, and then James will probably be joining us. So buckle up for all of that. I just want to kick it off. We
Yes.
were just talking about your tour. You're going to be kicking it off in New York at Union Pool, March 22nd. And then, yeah, you're going to be doing a bunch of dates in the US and Europe. And then also, in January, you just released a full album all of your singles and EPs, which is a staggering 17 songs. Uh,
Yeah. It,
just
it fit. It just barely fit onto like one LP.
I
We
that
had like
is,
a
that is
couple
wild.
couple seconds on either side, and it was really like it was the plan that we've had all along that we wanted to when we finally did vinyl, that we wanted to try to get everything we had done on King Pizza on one record. So the fact that we didn't have to like compromise it,
Yeah,
uh like was really nice. And we saw, we're like, all right, cool. We got like a couple seconds on either side. And it balanced out well too. So um yeah, I
bang
mean
for
that
your
was
buck. Yeah, that's what a deal on an album.
yeah, and then like it's basically sold out. Like we had a couple like rarities that came in, from like the printing process. So we got those in person because we didn't want to throw them up on the website for a couple of reasons. Also, just give like people at shows like a chance to get the more rare variants. Uh,
What made
but
them
that's
rare?
kind of it. Say what?
What made them rare?
There's like transitional pressings, so you end up getting like kind of these like happy accidents. Like there's probably the rarest one was like this like between the there must have been some type of like black like run before us. So it's like there's like a clear with like black swirls through it, which is really cool. And then the one that everyone really liked was the one that was like between the white and the clear, just kind of looks like Pearl Jam.
All right.
Yeah, people really love that one. I mean, it's one of the ones I held on to.
Hell yeah. And
Yeah.
who did you do the printing process with? I mean, how was that whole process like? What went into it?
It was so we released this through King Pizza Records in collaboration with Joe Nelson helped us with I don't know if you are familiar with Joe Nelson, but he's with Trust Records. So he's been helping us he's got helping us with distro and with our merch and things like that. So we're kind of beyond the capacity of what like King Pizza could do comfortably or has like done in the past. So in order to actually do what we wanted to do, it had to be kind of like a collaborative effort in order to like reach like the demand for what we were trying to do with this release. And it worked because like I think it's sold out like immediately. So the printing was done through Waxy Poodle, which was an affiliated company. I think it's like relatively new that Greg Hansen for King Pizza was aware of.
Hell yeah.
Um, but yeah, like we kind of lucked out. Um, like our popularity changed really rapidly in the last like 9 months. So we
What
wanted
do
to
you
get
think
this
was
out
the cause
before.
of that?
I mean, it's weird. It's like when something breaks, it's kind of like all at once. So it's like everything kind of starts taking off. I mean, the biggest thing probably at this point that like, people in the music industry look at are your Spotify streaming numbers. You know, I'm not sure how much you guys have like rehashed this on your podcast in the past, but it's that decision for Spotify to show streaming numbers and monthly listeners is like one of the reasons why the app is like positioned in the way it is now, because it became something the music industry can look at and like anyone can kind of take a peek at that. It's not the only metric, but it is a very ungameable metric for telling kind of like how a band's doing, at least like hype wise.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the streaming numbers are not the end all be all. We go out with bands that we have a significant more amount of streams, but they're cemented. So people aren't necessarily listening to their stuff every day, but you know they're just cemented in those albums. Like yeah, it's a different thing. Like I love bands like Torch, but I can't tell you the last time I listened to a Torch album like this year or something. So it's not like I'm listening like every day, you know.
Yeah, what do you I've been blasting your music for a few weeks now. What do you There's something about your music that is very much you can just have it playing and it's like interesting enough you can kind of come in and out and it'll be like this is fucking heavy, this is really cool and I like what they're going with this and the lyrics. Yeah, there's definitely something to your music that's very just put onable and it's everybody can get into it. So for whatever that
Yeah,
makes sense.
we like condensed into like being like an active lifestyle brand or something,
Yeah, I
like
saw you talking about that on the other interview. That is, I find that very funny, but I mean, it makes sense. But what is for people who are unaware of that? What does that mean for you? Like, how are you positioned
uh
that way?
I mean, just I like especially during the pandemic, like James got really back into skateboarding heavily. It's like during that period of time, people got to like rediscover certain things. And like now it's almost like an inextricable part of his personality. It's like whenever we drive around on tour, it's like, I don't skate. I'm sure that's come up too. And he'll just like look over and just be like, that's a spot. That's a spot. you know? So it's become part of like the band's personality too, as part of that. I mean, it's also like, there's a lot of overlap with like the whole culture, like kind of a lot of the genres that we pulled into like what we're doing. So it makes sense. It's I'm more of like a weightlifter type person, Uh that is a little I guess a little less associated with punk, but it's not completely off base. Uh but just in general, like even like right now, it's like if I were to say how much I consume music, it's primarily the bulk of it I consume when I'm working out, and that amounts to like hours and hours, like a week, you know. Though I will say that like the best listening that I kind of do is just like when I'm out like going for walks. It's like it's just active enough that you can kind of be like in like a almost like a meditative state, but it's not so active that you can not focus on like what you're listening to. So whenever I'm taking in something new, like I'm listening to a new band, or say like we have like demos we're listening to, and I'm trying to get an idea of like what I want to do with my part, or like what's working, what's not working, like that's when I really like to do my listening. Just go for like a mile walk, get a coffee, come back, if it's nice, walk a lot longer, you know. But yeah, it's like I totally get what you're saying about like I definitely have albums that I'll run in the gym, and it's like I'm digging it, but then when someone asks me about it, I'm going like, well, it's like I really liked it, but I don't really like I couldn't give you like a solid review because I just kind of like you soak it in as like the vibe. So it's like in order to really have time with it, you kind of have to like listen to it in like different ways. Listen to it while driving, listen to it while like you're cooking dinner, or like you know
Yeah,
when
I
you're
think people more or less kind of fall into like a vibe category with music now. I feel like that's the way a lot of things are being segmented in the music industry, and I'm all for it. I might make that sound bad, but like you're like this is the kind of music I want to listen to when I'm doing this specific thing, like you said, to like working out or whatever.
yeah.
But
It's like pairing your beverage with your meal. It's like I see it as being the same thing. You're creating your own soundtrack for your movie of your life.
exactly, that's the way I always see it. I always need to like living in Brooklyn, I always need some like pump up music before I like leave the door because you never know where you're gonna. It's always an adventure when you leave the front door here and you end up on the subway and some shit goes down and so yeah, I'll be ready. But when I'm back at the house, I usually listen to some pretty chill, mellow, just beats and hip hop and all that good shit.
Yeah, I
But
mean, totally,
Okay.
totally vibe with it, you know?
What? Let's get into why a duo? Um, why do you think you guys work so well as a duo? What was the goal when you got together? How did you get together? Because you guys are from all over the place. Are you still in Indianapolis?
No, I'm not sure where Indianapolis came. I think you're thinking Annapolis.
Annapolis. Okay.
Annapolis, yeah, it's in Maryland.
All
That's
right.
the capital of Maryland. Like,
Gotcha.
yeah, I live in Annapolis right now. I kind of grew up moving all around like Maryland, like DC area. So it's like I've lived in Baltimore, I've lived in DC. Like actually, when James, when you cut to the quick a little bit, James is kind of a similar story where he moved around a lot. Like he's a dual citizen. So when he moved uh, to this like the DC area, he had most recently been living in Liverpool. And when he was there, he had a project going called Bad Acid, and it was kind of like the like proto kind of version of what Team Mortgage ended up being, where he had been working on kind of like his pedal setup in order to be able to do this like duo thing with like another drummer. But then when he decided to move, he came over here and he was like, "Well, I don't really want to like stop that project."
Yeah.
He had another group going at the time, and he just wanted to keep it going, but he just moved back and he didn't really know anyone. So, like, legitimately, he put an ad up on Craigslist. He's like, "All right, well, fuck it, like, what do I have to lose?" And this is like, by the way, this is well past like Craigslist Prime, you know,
Yeah.
which leads into like why I was on Craigslist. I used to think it was fun to kind of go on there and just like occasionally just look at the music ads because sometimes they would tell like a story within it, of like how a band had been burned in the past or like, you know, it tells the personality of the person of the ad. Um, so I kind of was just doing like a light people watching experiment with going through those ads, and I came across this stuff, and I was like, oh, this is actually like he had some demos up, and I was like, oh, these are actually pretty good. Like, and then he was just looking for one other person, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll look into this. I have another band called Tired All the Time, which is like a totally different style of music. But I always kind of want to play more. So, I was like, well, a duo should be something I can fit into. It's like one person that you have to coordinate schedules with, one personality you have to get along with. It fits really easily into a car, you know. So that's how we met, you know. And
Yeah.
then
Hit it off from there. And what was it? What
yeah,
was the
man,
first things that were happening?
the leanness of the project and there's a variety of factors. Leading this project definitely like lent itself to a lot of like opportunities. Like in the beginning, as much as you want to be like, yeah, it's the music and a performance, it's like, sometimes like really when you're starting out, it's like, do you answer messages? Like it's like one of the simplest things that we did in the beginning is like we responded to emails and we emailed, like we're Team Mortgage is probably the only group I've ever been in where I have another member that pushes the group, with all the non-fun stuff, you know. Uh, so it's worked out really well over the years because like we kind of like push each other, and there's definitely times where like we're going through waves and like one of us has like something we're dealing with and whatever, and it's like we're always kind of like motivating each other to do things through some means or the other. But at this point, we've been playing out since 2017. It's like we've kind of worked into like what we have is like certain strong suits. So kind of like by default, certain responsibilities have come more on one person or the other over time, just because it's just kind of like how we're like wired mentally.
What would you say your responsibilities are more than James's?
Uh, I'm more anal about like punctuality. It's ironic he's not in the interview right now, right? It's
Yeah. We could be
ironic in a it's ironic in Atlanta. It's more set kind of ironic, you know. Like, uh, but yeah, it's stuff like that. You know, he has a different threshold. I think everyone has a threshold for how much you can socialize. Um, and that's perfectly understandable. I think like the more I get to know like artists, especially artists that are doing like really, you know, well, it's like you have it's an integral part of the job, but like it is, you know, for a lot of people, it's like it's really it's a lot of work. So a lot of the kind of I don't want to say like socializing stuff, but like there's a lot of like socializing that we have to do for like business things, you know. So a lot of man, I'm trying to to put this succinctly for you. I just ended up doing a lot more like the quick communications is what I'll say. People always try to draw parallels between like relationships. So it's like it is really just like when it's two people, it's like it's you know, are you familiar with like concepts of like you know like physics? It's it's
legally.
like the
Yeah.
two of us are like close together. So it's like there's a lot like of you know uh, the parallels between that and like a marriage or something like that. You know,
Yeah.
uh, are stronger and stronger. I think as the years go, and like you know, um, at this point, it's like you know, it's very functional. And honestly, at this like with how things are going now, it's like this is kind of like what we've been working for. You know, funny enough, the work is increased.
I
But
believe
it's a
it.
lot more reward. Yeah, it's a lot more rewarding now when you go out and like you know, going out on tour and knowing that they're you know you have guarantees that tickets are sold and you know we've been doing a lot of support runs over the last year, but like you know when we go out and we do a show where it's like you know specifically our crowd, it's like it's kind of like where it really sinks in. You're going like, oh man, like this is you know those shows are actually like you know those ones are they're a different vibe, kind of like I was saying earlier. But like when you go out there, man, it's like we always we this thing we say in the band is kind of like somewhat of an inside joke, but it's like the food's already made. You know, it's like we just got to serve it. You know,
Yeah.
when you go out certain crowds and like you can just kind of like feel the energy when you go on stage, or just go like, all right, cool, like it's just fun tonight. You know,
Yeah. You're just among a bunch of friends, a bunch of people who understand where you're coming from.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep. Like
Awesome.
you've kind of cultivated whatever your aura is around your band, you know. I think when people take a larger step back, it's like, you know, you're creating music, but like you know, you're kind of like curating a party for people, you know, you're coming up with the mood and kind of like how you want things to look and the general flow of the night. It's like there's a whole you know, whether you're doing it consciously or not, which, you know, I think once you pass a certain threshold, you're probably doing it pretty damn consciously. Uh, you know, that's what you're doing. You're not just making music. You know, you're not uh, just showing up there to show people how fast you can play arpeggios. You know, like, you know,
Really make it something that people can resonate with, and that's the point. At what point did you decide like this is a band that you actually want to go for? Was there any kind of like writing on the wall that you kind of saw like where eventually we're gonna go if you guys kept up with it? Like what were your first shows like? What were the people's first reactions when you started playing as a duo?
uh, I mean, as far as like goals, um, you know, I anything I invest my time in. is something I think is worth investing time in, right? Meaning that like I'll push whatever I'm investing my time in as far as I can push it, right? So the nice thing about that is like I didn't have an end goal of being like, oh, I'm gonna be a rock star, or some shit like that, Like it's I just in a way, I think it's like something I heard Andrew Huberman say at some point where it's like, sometimes goals can be a little misleading, right? Um, when you get to a goal, like what do you do? It's like you end up just making the next goal. It's like as far as like feeling like a personal reward, you really kind of just have to enjoy the process of what you're doing, because once you get to the goal, it's like that's just more of a milestone than anything, it's not the end. Once you've achieved that, you're like, where do you go from there? So it's like you kind of have to enjoy the process for, the work and the little micro like goals along the way. And like, honestly, it's more of like a kind of a Buddhist kind of thing, but like you kind of have to enjoy some of the suffering of the process, because it makes when you do reach certain milestones much more worth it. In the history of the band, we've had a lot of things where we had big wins that came directly out of like things going wrong and having failures. And I think any one that's had success is like, yeah, you see the successes, but like, you know, all those things come from trying and failing, and that's what makes you be able to reach the next step, is the fact that you've been hardened across the time. I mean, I think that's one of the things that also kind of narrows the population down a little bit, because like there's so many people that are playing music out there, um but if you don't enjoy the process, like I don't think you're going to make it unless you just get like extremely lucky. And then when you do get lucky and you get an opportunity, you really got to enjoy the process, because like I just said earlier, it doesn't get like easier. It's not like less work. It's even more work. Uh so but I I definitely am one of the persons that like can kind of like reflect on that aspect.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like that. It's about the little wins along the way rather than here where you're trying to get, because like yeah, you never know where you're gonna end up. You never know what's gonna actually happen. So might as well just keep at it to some extent.
I mean, what is it right now? It's March.
March 7th.
So not last September, the one before that, we did our first like coast to coast US run, right? And that was like completely DIY booked, right? And then now we're going to open for Smashing Pumpkins and Weezer.
I saw that.
So
That
like,
in Manchester, yeah. That's
yeah,
wild. Uh
yeah. It's if you were to tell me then, when we were like loading into we weren't even touring in a van, we were in an SUV, uh that's where that was going. Yeah, it's I wouldn't have believed you.
that's that's pretty wild. You're gonna see Jimmy Chamberlain up close and personal. Insane, one of my favorite drummers.
Maybe, I don't know. Like it's funny when you talk to people, they're going like, yeah, it's like some people are like, yeah, you're gonna meet him. I'm like, yeah, I'm not sure,
Oh,
you
maybe.
know.
Hey, at least you're gonna see it, share the stage with him.
Yeah, I mean, I I I'm being optimistic about it, but I think that dude from the Darkness said at one point like they went on tour with Lady Gaga, and it's just like when you're with bands of like such kind of like a status, it's like things are just different, even if it's like not necessarily the artist wishes, it's just because there's just so many people around them that it's like there's like a whole just moat of social things you have to go through. He said that Lady Gaga was like really accommodating and super nice, but it's like, yeah, she stopped by to say hi at some point to the band in their dressing room, but he had gone out to go to the bathroom. He's like, yeah, I couldn't get back into my own dressing room because she had come to visit us, you know? And it's like, yeah, it's like different situations where he had said that, like, we played with big bands and like I found myself as a support act, like, pinned up against a wall by security and like, so I don't think that's going to happen. Probably. We have good situational awareness, so I think that helps. But just we'll see. It's like I said, like I don't I'm not going in there with any preconceived notions about how I think it's gonna transpire. So like whatever it is, I know we're gonna go out there, we're gonna do our thing and as best as we can, and see how it goes,
Yeah, the rest is just gonna happen by itself. That's kind of how it's gonna go.
Yeah.
Let's get into recording a little bit. I mean, it's crazy. I guess your first EP was released in 2019, Life, Death, and then Smoked 2021. That wasn't like that wasn't really that long ago, especially considering like there's a whole time lapse of lockdown and all that stuff in between there. What
Yeah.
was, I mean, you mentioned that James was before you got into the project, he was already working on like sounds for what he was trying to do with pedals and guitar and how he could make a duo actually sound big enough to be a proper band without having to need a bunch of members. What do you remember about the recording processes and how have things like kind of changed over time and like what's something that you look for maybe in drum sounds or guitars or vocals? Is there a specific person you like working with? Any and all thoughts about just your recording process?
I don't know, man. Like the whole thing's it's always like an evolving process. Like his I can't speak for his pedal board. But like that thing is like he's constantly working on it and trying to, you know, improve on the way it works. And honestly, it's like it is a it is a scary thing because that thing's complicated. So like I mean it's not like overly complicated, but like, like even like when you get into like different rooms, different like just circuits, it's like you get like a lot more feedback in certain areas and like interference. So you know, that is a constantly evolving process of trying to like narrow down where things can go wrong. Relatively my job in the group as the drummer um is, it's simple to a it's yeah, it's I don't want to say it's like simple, but we definitely are a band that tries to really focus more on the song than on like showing off, you know? And I think there's like aspects of it there where it bleeds out that you can tell that like we have like, some level of talent, but it's not the modus operandi of being like, yeah, we're gonna go out there and shred, It's like, no, it's like we want to make really good songs. Like there's always been this thing where it's like we love the heaviness of it, but there's like there's like 60s pop influences and things like that, it's like I think you can be like heavy as fuck and still be poppy, you know I mentioned Torch earlier. I think Torch is one of those groups where it's like, they'll go out and have a record that's like super thick and heavy, but it's like in major keys, you know like they're so yeah, I'm getting a little lost there. Yeah, as far as like recording, it's been different each time. We've used Kenny Eaton with Mystery Ton Studios, uh, and really like working with him. I like working with him from like a drum recording perspective, like specifically, just because like I know like when I go in there and I work with him, when I walk out, he does a lot of like editing just kind of like quickly while we're in there. So like I can see that the drums are done when I leave, you know? Versus like other times I've done things where it's like you're listening to it and you're going like, all right, well, there's you see when you get the mixes back, you're like, oh no, we need to go like fix that. That's a whole extra day or two you got to go in, like set things up and like, we've dropped recordings before because we got like scratches back and we were listening to it, we're going like, yeah, it's like these aren't ready. So from an economy perspective, you know, but I mean, I think kind of like no matter like who you're working with, some of it's like your ability to communicate what you want to. So just coming in prepared to like whatever like recording session you have with, the proper verbiage you want to use and reference points is something that's really valuable, and like I again, I'm a percussionist. It's like I'm not a lot of help when it comes to telling you like specific audio terms.
Yeah.
It's like I'm very like Neanderthalish. I do have an understanding. I have like a music minor and things like that, but like it's like you learn a language. If you're not speaking it, you know, you're not going to be fluent.
Yeah,
You're going
absolutely.
to lose it.
Interesting.
Um,
You've
yeah,
also mentioned that the songs you don't really know necessarily before like what the song's actually going to be until you actually record it. I thought that was interesting. I found in one of your interviews. Can you kind of elaborate on that? Like what makes it a song actually like done for you once you actually hit the recording thing? Does James change stuff around a lot or
yeah. I was going to say like I think maybe that's like what you're referring to. Yeah, like I think now one of the nice things that's happened since I'd say over the last year is like we're starting to feel more and more. I don't want to say pressure, but motivation to kind of like build the body of work out a little bit. Because like we want to do like another LP, you know, or like a full like from start to finish LP. Uh, so we've been trying not to be as precious about some of the songs. So I think some of the what's happened in the past is like you just won't be like satisfied with the song, so he'll just keep working on that song. It just kind of like keeps going over and over again until like it's unrecognizable. Different key, different beat, different feel. You know, uh, now it's one of those things where it's like it's more like he'll take like an aspect of it he likes, and he'll take that aspect, he'll move it over, and he'll write a different song, right?
yeah.
Which is now you're like you get two songs. You got song like maybe you like this one, maybe you don't like the other one, and then like we are having ones where we did that where we split kind of the parts of songs we liked and then altered them so now they sound like two different, like completely different songs. There's a lot of different places you can go aside from just key, time, feel, even just changing like the time signature altogether, which I think people would laugh at. Oh, the balloons just popped up. What was
No
that?
idea why. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, what was that?
I have no idea. It happened the other day on an interview as well, and I don't know what I did, but okay.
All right,
Yeah,
yeah,
interesting. And that's I guess that kind of shows that you guys are really workshopping these live first. I always feel the same way. It's like uh, if I'm gonna be playing music out there, I really don't know what the song is gonna be until you play it live in front of other people. You kind of get that immediate feedback. This is the way I see it.
yeah, yeah, man. Yeah, it's a thing. Like, I really like to kind of like settle into a song to a degree. Like, there are certain songs that we've done where it's like we go out, we'll usually workshop them a little bit, and then you do them at sound check to get like the full like kind of like feeling of like what you would get like at a show, and then you know they just gotta start doing them. And like I like to do that before I record them, but it's not always what happens.
Yeah.
Uh, Also, I think because of that, like people have different philosophies where like once they go and record a record and they go out and play, they're like, all right, well that's the song, right? So like that's what it is, and like this is what it is now. We got to go out and like we have to play that, and that's what it's going to be every night. Um, but that is a way to do it, you know. Uh, when I go in and record something, and like I don't really think the version that we're doing in that was on the record or something like that is working live, it's like we're just like, no, make it work live, you know? Like I think Ghost Girl is a good example of that. Ghost Girl is like super slow and sludgy, but like it's got a different feel when we play it live. It's just like faster,
Hmm.
you know? And we have people be like, "Oh, you're rushing it." I'm going like, "No, we just like that tempo better." You
Yeah.
know? We it's enough where we actually thought about recording like a more hi-fi version of that song and be like, "No, it's actually at the tempo." So like this is what the tempo is now,
Basically do the
or
reverse what a lot of people are doing with like the slowed down reverb versions.
yeah, yeah. I mean, like, uh, kind of like a more of a pop oriented outfit, like Gnarls Barkley when they had Crazy. That I've seen them do like six different versions of that. Just depending on like what it was. And it's like that's perfectly fine. Like, I mean, if you set the precedent, that's kind of like who you are. Like your audience can follow it. Um, I guess it depends. I mean, I guess it's got to be different from like genre to genre. But some people probably want to go out and be like, "Oh, I listened to the record and I want to hear that record." I'm like, "Well, why would you?" Like, exactly, like you have the record. You will be like, and then the parallel gets even leaner when you get into bands using like backing tracks and stuff like that. Backing tracks where it's like, I mean, I don't want to get into it. I'm not on that level yet. I'm not going to start casting shade on people that are, uh, you know, a lot bigger than me and stuff like that. But like, it is a conversation that's valid within the community right now about people using backing tracks. You know,
Yeah.
and they're doing it because they want to make it sound with the sounds on the record or make it sound as thick as they can. And it's like, I don't know, man. To each his own, really.
I
You
saw
know,
I saw Viagra Boys and the opener for them it was a straight up like hardcore punk band, but they were using
yeah,
backing tracks, which was the weirdest thing. Like me and my buddies were like looking at each other like this is so weird because you would not be singing and then you'd have like gang vocals of like five things and he was just like out in the audience. It's like this is such a weird genre for that, especially. I was like, I do not like this precedent. I didn't remember what the band was, but everybody who was in the audience is like, this is weird.
yeah. I mean, it's like I don't have like super strong opinions on it. I do have opinions, but it's like I think it's like anything, man. It's like backing tracks are like an ingredient, right? And it's like if that's kind of the way you want to make the dish, that's your dish. I mean, there's is something for like to be said about transparency,
Yeah,
you know? I mean, if it's known that you're going out and a lot of it's backing tracks, then that's kind of is what it is. It's like you can
I mean,
still go see a band that does that, puts on fucking amazing show. So it's like, to each his own,
of course.
you
I mean,
know?
I personally play with backing tracks with this girl Keeper Knots who I'm playing with right now. It's very obvious what's happening, and it's just adds to the show. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think there's a time and place, and it's in general, I think most people should try to get away from the backing tracks as much as they can, and just put on the best show you can. But that's my philosophy on it. I think it's enough about that. No talking shit on it. There's such amazing shows out there that have great backing tracks.
I'm it's like I don't think I'd ever do good as like do I don't think I'd ever be like a good journalist because I'm not like super into saying like inflammatory things. I just feel like there's enough like negative shit in the world that I don't need to like add to it. It's like I actually do write
I was gonna say
occasionally
I've
for
got a great segue for this. Don't ruin this for me.
that's okay.
You're right for recommend if you like magazine, and you have some hilarious, awesome articles. But yeah, talk about how you got into that, and then we'll talk about your latest article.
Uh, Brandon Weatherby is just he's this dude that and he's a lot of things. He's like maybe like an editor for District Fray magazine right now. Recommend if you like is like his own online magazine. And he's been a fan of us for a long time. He used to have us go on his podcast, You, Me, Them, Everybody. That's kind of run out of like Chicago and DC. I can't give you the exact time frame on how long it's been. Just but like he's been an early supporter of us, and at some point he just asked me to contribute to a series I was doing where I was asking artists to write about a song that they wished they'd wrote. And I was like, sure, I'll give it a shot. The typical fashion, like, I don't really, I, I don't know. I tend to make things difficult whenever you ask me anything that's like philosophical, you know. I couldn't. There's no songs where I'm like, I wish I wrote that. You know, it's like That's just not how I'm like wired. But I wrote this like whole article about the band Boris, where I was like, this isn't a song that I wish I wrote, but this is like a band that I really envy in regards to like just their kind of approach to things. I don't know if that article is like a lot more buried, but it's kind of like a love letter to them and like about like kind of like going the hard way and being experimental and kind of like cultivating like uh your own audience while kind of being a little bit more like off the rails, you know. Not as poetic as it was in the article, but that's what you like about writing stuff is that you can go back through it and be like, yeah, I sound better
Yeah.
now.
No, I think it's such a cool thing that you do, and you had you're talking about the ultimate monster energy drinks, hard ones, I believe. Was that you or is that another article?
I think I did. So I did the Hard Mountain Dews.
That was it. Hard Mountain Dews.
Yeah, the Hard Mountain Dews. Which just I did it because I thought it was just that was what I was doing at the
Serious,
time.
serious journalism.
I mean, it's
Somebody's
again,
got to
like
do it. You know, somebody's got to do it.
you gotta hit him with the hard facts.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But the
I
last
mean,
article, the art of pooping on tour. I thought
yes.
this was, and your story that you stated is so relatable to so many people, which I thought was hilarious about your chicken wings in Nashville. I don't
Oh
know if
yeah,
you feel like saying
the
the story
Nashville
again.
hot chicken.
Yeah. Um,
Uh, I mean, I could like, I could like direct them towards the article,
let's do that. Yeah, exactly. I was like,
but
I don't know.
I just get into vivid detail about how bad things can go on the road if you're not prepared and you make questionable dietary choices.
Yep. And you got
And
nowhere to take a
I
shit.
think, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, you kind of got. I think I'm sure you've heard in the past, like like I'm a nurse too, so it's like I don't really like. I don't shy away from like fluid talk. You know, like you can talk to me about the most nasty stuff, and I'll just eat a sandwich in front of you and be like, "Yeah, it's rad, man. That's wild."
Yeah, nurses are a whole other breed. Yeah. Well, I'll end up at parties with some of them. They're like, you want to see something crazy? I'm like, actually, I don't think I do. Uh,
Yeah, that article was I don't know, man. That was my magnum opus. I think I don't. It's like now I'm going like, what do I do after that? I think I did write an article after that. I can't remember which one came first. I wrote something about ghosts, ghost energy drinks at some point.
yeah.
But when I was being asked by Brandon about like, is this you got any like ideas for like stuff you want to write about? It's like I always would bring up the poop article because I was like, oh, yeah, I was working on it. I was like, in my head, this is gonna work. But like every time I brought it up, he didn't say don't do it, but he definitely just like did not encourage it at all. So I was going like, I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna write it. Like it's gonna work in my head. And like as I'm like reading and editing it, I'm actually laughing at my own stuff. I'm like, all right, I think this is gonna work.
It
Uh
was truly for you
I
at that point, which makes it the best.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean like, anyone I kind of had to like show a draft of to it was like, oh my God. I actually had to edit it down like significantly because I was going like, I don't know how long people were gonna go on this journey with me for because I had like I probably took like half of it out, because I
Wow.
have like, it depends on how deep you want to go. Like I almost like was going like, how far should I go in like the medical treatment of like diarrhea? Like, because that is something in my wheelhouse. There's some like valid like tips in there for like
Exactly.
traveler's diarrhea and yeah, like Yeah, man, but like that's a very real thing, you know. Uh it's anyone that's been on the road in any capacity, man. Anything to derail a tour is just getting some nasty bug and just not being prepared for it. And unfortunately, as funny as it is, it's like if you get dehydrated, man, that could be like a possible hospital like admission. Not like you're not admitted to the hospital, but you might end up in the hospital.
Yeah.
You
Uh,
know, so if you're not, you know, you're not careful, especially if you're not like, I mean, now I think the last time I actually got like a travel related sickness when I was out, and I was like, man, I was like in France, and I was going like, oh, like, like the idea of having to go to like a hospital in another country is just like, yeah, it was not how I envisioned this little visit to go, you know?
yeah,
So
you're imagining a baguette and a bottle of wine next to the Eiffel Tower. You weren't imagining, trying to figure out how to work your insurance into French, probably.
yeah, they're pretty good. They got like this Google Translate apps and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
France, anyway, we'll get off the
Anyway, I
topic of
thought it was a
healthcare
great article. I
administration.
know I know a lot of nervous poopers. I have some friends that don't leave home without an extra pair of underwear. So I
Dude,
like I
I've been
thought this
pulled
article
as
was honestly good for people to read if they travel at all.
I've been pulled aside at weddings, and like they're like, "Oh man, like, it's good to see you, man." I read the poop article though, man. Like a lot of musicians in particular, are just like it's like so relatable.
Exactly.
And I was like, "Yeah, that's why I wrote it." It's like it's just one of those like it's not unspoken, but like it's like once you bring it up with someone, it's like you're like, oh, like they want to talk about their trauma.
Yeah,
They're like, this thing happened to me in Phoenix, man. I thought I was gonna die. Like, yeah, yeah,
exactly.
that's
So
how
anyway,
it is.
listening out there, definitely go recommend if you like magazine or the online website. And yeah, go check that article out. The Art of Pooping on Tour. That was
Yeah,
it was a great read. That was super funny. It definitely made my day today, aside from this interview we're doing right now. I have a few
I
more questions
appreciate
for
it.
you. Are you down for a lightning round of some quick questions?
Yeah, I could try.
All right. This may not be the quickest one, but weirdest place you've stayed on tour, slept at, had to accommodate it at.
Oh man, I don't know if I have any like really fantastic like stories about that because we've kind of been like because we're so lean, we can crash at places very comfortably.
That's awesome.
So like, yeah, I mean, I do have a friend that had a really funny story about them doing like couch crashing and someone had put them up. And when they went into the house, they were like, yeah, the house was like completely empty except for this one bedroom they was having a stay in. And he said, we went into the bedroom and it was just completely full of minion shit, like the Despicable Me minions. And
That's
he was like, yeah, it was like that was creepy enough in itself. He says that he comes to learn the story. He's like, yeah, like the story was that like the person that they were staying with had just gotten divorced and didn't go well or something like that. And the wife just
really,
took everything from the fucking house. But it's like, no, you keep your fucking minion shit.
yeah, dude. She won. That's fucking
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah. I mean that sounds. I mean that's also one of the reasons why it's like we haven't done like usually if we stay at someone's place we vetted them to a degree. It's like I kind of have to meet them and like kind of decide whether it's a good thing. We haven't done too many like full stays for that reason.
This is just another reason to try out a duo band because yeah, I've got some wild answers for this question, but I mean it's a lot easier when you have two people to like crash on the couch, one on the floor, call it a night.
Yeah, I mean if we know people for the same reason, if we go to stay at someone's place, it's like it's just the two of us. So for like safety reasons, it's like that's another reason why we don't really do it. Just because like you know
Yeah. All
bad
right,
things
next
can
question.
happen.
Next question. Chevy or Ford?
Okay,
What
wait, what?
Chevy or Ford?
I don't know, man. We
Neither.
drive a Honda.
Hell yeah. Great answer. Favorite cereal mascot?
Man, I can't even think of one. We don't eat cereal. He's from Liverpool, so like I don't know if he grew up eating cereal. It's not like that's like an American thing.
Yeah. All right, that's fair. How
Maybe
about
maybe fruit brute.
okay.
And the only reason why I can remember fruit brute is because the Quentin Tarantino tie.
Ah,
It's part of like the fucking monster series cereals. I think they were like out like the 60s, 70s. You still get like Boo Berry and like Count Chocula and Frankenberry, but you don't get Fruit Brute anymore. But it's a thing that like Quentin Tarantino and a bunch of his movies, he'll have like boxes of Fruit Brute that people are eating. I think like the one drug dealer in Pulp Fiction, like when he gets the call that he's bringing uh the overdose to his house, it's like he's sitting there on the couch eating Fruit Brute. He's like, no, you don't fucking do that.
there you go.
Yeah.
What's your favorite city to play in, or what's just generally your favorite city to visit?
Man. Uh I don't know. Like I like just the a whole act of just traveling, man. Like I definitely there's places I'm more excited about going to than others, but like I think one of the coolest things about touring is that it brings you to places that you would never think to go, you know? And sometimes they end up ruling like we went to Kalamazoo, Michigan, just based on like an invitation to go do a DIY show. And I didn't know a damn thing about Kalamazoo. And we ended up going back a couple times just because, it just ruled. They had like this really kind of cool DIY scene going on there, you know? Like, so yeah, I can't pick favorites. If there's notable
Great
ones that
answer
we
though.
do really, yeah, I mean, if there's notable ones that we do really well in, New York's pretty kind to us. LA's pretty kind to us. And, when we went to London last time, that was like super cathartic. I think because they've been waiting for us to get over there for so long. When we got over there, it was just like that crowd was ready, man. Can't wait to get back there.
Oh yeah. Well, we cannot wait to see you in Brooklyn. Okay, I got one last lightning round question for you. Desert Island albums. Some of your favorite albums that if you were stuck on a desert island, you could listen to them. You think, without going completely crazy.
Oh man. Yeah, I mean there's certain ones that like I know I always come back to. I think it's a lot of this gets cemented like when like you're younger, it's like so one that I don't know if a lot of people would have is I love this album called World Coming Down by Typo Negative.
Okay.
Uh Typo Negative, the Drab Four. It's basically like just like the heavy as fuck goth Beatles. Uh that's a album that I'd say I listen to at least like once a year. Um Albums that I've bought multiple times. Relationship at Command by At the Drive-In.
Oh yeah.
Uh like specifically that album. Um Ladies and Gentlemen, We're Floating in Space by Spiritualized. Let me see. Damn. Yeah, I think it's a really loaded question we ask.
A solid list.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like ones that come to mind. And like walking around.
Yeah.
I would just say like whole Misfits discography. That'd be a good one.
There you
You
go.
know,
I get the anthology, the box version. That'll count as one.
yeah, that's a cheat code there.
There you go.
Uh, yeah, man. But it's a that's my first instinct picks. You
Great.
know.
Well, that ends the
Oh,
lightning round. You got one?
I was gonna say Red Fang 2.
Fuck
Like
yeah.
Red Fang, Murder in the Mountains.
Yes.
Yeah, that's like all one of my all-time favorites. It's like it was so cathartic, like going out towards them.
Yeah.
So it's like
I
I've been
bet.
rocking with that album since it came out. Like bought it like on Bandcamp. Man, I think like when I was in nursing school or something. So yeah, good times.
And then it worked out. Then he started playing shows with them. It's rad.
Yeah.
Well, now that ends the lightning round. Great answers. Let's wrap this up. This is a question I ask everybody. What do you do if you're dealing with imposter syndrome, not feeling like you're stacking up, feeling like what the hell am I doing right now? How you mentioned earlier that you've had some really low points and then it turned into some of the best stuff that happened to you as a band. How do you, as an artist or a musician, business person, get through those times?
Uh, I mean, I think just like knowing that everyone's kind of going through that, it's like it's a nice thing about like meeting uh these people that are kind of like at a spot where, we're kind of like heading in that direction, or at least like kind of aiming towards there. People that are like more like solidified in their career. And it's like, sometimes they'll explain to you the same kind of like neuroticisms, so like everyone's kind of going through it. And just understand that that's part of it, man. That's like that like level of anxiety can be motivating, you know. Imposter syndrome in general, for me, as much as it's like discomforting, it is motivating to be better. It's like if you don't want to feel it as much, you're gonna still feel it, but you know, if you don't want to feel it, pick certain things that are bothering you that you think you're not good at and try to work on them. So that's one way we deal with it. And the other way is you just got to do stuff, man. Like to a degree, you just desensitize yourself to certain anxieties by hitting it head on, pushing yourself out of your comfort zones. And this year has been a big thing for that, where uh, part of being able to do the things that we're doing is just learning new things on the fly and pushing yourselves out of your comfort zones. And then once you've done it, once you've done an international tour, once you've done like a US tour, any of that stuff, like once you've done it once, you kind of have an idea whether it went well or didn't go well. You're like, well, that's what it is. Like
What happened? Yep.
that's like that's what that looks like, and we can go back out and try it again and make it better, or try to do it as well as we did last time. You know?
Hell yeah. It's a great answer. Well, hey, thank
Yeah.
you so much for doing this. Let's talk about the things you have coming up. You're going on tour, you're kicking it off, as I keep on mentioning, because I'm very excited for the show. You're gonna be playing at Union Pool March 22nd in New York, and then you're gonna go to Philly, Medford, Montreal, Toronto, blah blah blah. Everybody go to the Spotify or just go to the website and check that out. But anything else you want to let the fans know to buy, purchase, come see you? How can they support you and let them know what you got going on?
I mean, come to the shows, man. That would be the big one. We also just announced, like I said, we announced Wednesday, and then today, yeah, today, we announced our May through June tour dates, which are we're doing a 6 date tour with this band called Die Spitz
Mhm.
from Colorado to LA, just kind of looping back around to our dates at Punk Rock Bowling. Then we're flying out to Dublin, and we're going to do a bunch of UK dates around the Smashing Pumpkins and Weezer tour. And that ends with us actually going to like mainland Europe. So we're going to be hitting Paris, a couple spots in the Netherlands and Germany. Um, so that's what we have planned for June. And then we got a couple other things to announce. But we're going to be at Louder the Life Fest, and we're going to be at Aftershock.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. So those are the current things. And yeah, I mean, as far as it goes right now, man, if you're at a show, or if you want to support, like we have a Shopify website. I think when we get our stuff for tour, we're going to get more stuff up on our Shopify website. And that's one of the things that's actually like, keeping the lights on here. The current level right now, it's like, the money we make just like mostly gets recycled into what we're doing in order to keep us like operating at this like the level that we're doing. So that stuff, buying a t-shirt like really helps. So we try to make nice stuff for you, you know.
Hell yeah. Hey, well, Ed, this has been an absolute pleasure. Your guys' music is fucking rad, and I can't wait to see like where you're going and hear about after this tour. And after this crazy year you're about to have. So, dude, congrats on everything. And yeah, thanks so much for being on the show.
Yeah, if you ever want to do it again, just we'll circle back.
Circle back.
All
We'll
right.
on that one. All right.
All right,
Hey,
man. Good talking to
great
you.
rest of your day. Yeah, thank you very much.
All
Peace
right,
out.
cheers.
Hey, for the love of God, please subscribe to our Patreon for like $1 a month. That would help out a lot. Podcasts are, fun fact, really expensive to run, and I really enjoy doing this. So if you want to keep on seeing stuff like this, help me out. Also, like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff, and I really hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.